Hello, I'm Mike Moore, and welcome to the How to Win podcast. We are so delighted to have you with us today. Listen, we're going to have a great discussion today. I have my daughter with me, and we're going to be talking today about being the pastor and the preacher's kid.
I'm excited about this one.
Are you excited about this one?
am.
I am excited too because I want to maybe hear some things I've never heard before.
Okay, good.
So tag a friend, let them know that we are on How to Win. We're going to be sharing out of our personal life, our personal experience. We'll be sharing biblical principles, and you are going to be blessed. There are two areas we're going to be dealing with. We're going to talk about the blessings and the challenges of being a pastor. I was a pastor for 42 years and 8 months. I got some experience about being a pastor, but we're going to also look at my daughter. And by the way, she is the director of my podcast. She's the director. So put your hands together, Pat, there. Say, hey, Tiffany in the chat. She's such a blessing. And so we're going to be looking at her unique experience as a preacher's kid. I did something like this with my son, who is now my pastor, Michael K. Moore. But this time we're going to be talking to my daughter, and we want to hear her position, her experience about being a PK kids. I'm really looking forward to this because I think that you're going to hear something you've never heard before. And I believe I'm going to hear something that I never heard before. You're doing good, Tiffany?
I'm doing good. I'm excited about this conversation because I feel like, like you said earlier, you and Mike had the conversation before, but I feel like it's different with me and you. So I'm excited for people to get some wisdom, especially for pastor kids, but also for people who have a relationship with their parents. I feel like you can gain wisdom as well from this conversation, just about by the relationship.
And the truth of the matter is, we're going to be talking about the pastor and the preacher's kid. That's a specific area. But the principles we're going to be talking about would apply to every relationship between a parent and a child, and even an adult child, because Tiffany is an adult now, so I believe it's going to be a blessing.
I think
All
it's good.
right, we're going to be discussing.
Yes.
Okay, what do you want to say? What do you want to talk about?
Well, the first thing I want to ask you is, what was one of the most fulfilling things for you as a pastor?
Well, I pastored, like I said, over 42 years, and it was a wonderful experience. In fact, I received great fulfillment from a couple of areas in particular. A sense of fulfillment with helping people in their spiritual life, and because the word is practical, even helping them in their personal life. So it was wonderful to see people come into the local church, may not be saved and get saved, or they may be saved, but they've never had the kind of experience in the Word that they got at Faith Chapel. So it was wonderful to see how people grew in the Word. It was wonderful to see how their lives would change and get better. And then the spiritual side of partnering with God.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just amazing to know that we were co-laboring together.
Just to give people
experience.
a little insight, I've seen how you prepared. I see how you would do your sermons. And if you're not familiar with how he does it, he has a long list of notes and sermons. And so being on this side of having to prep clothes, having to prep your sermon, I have a newfound respect for you when it comes to prepping and getting prepared. So when you were younger, you don't think about all of the aspects that you have to put in, because mentally you have to show up. I don't think a lot of people think about that aspect of it. You also have to think about, you have personal things going on. So I admire you and all of the things that you do.
You admire me?
I do. I know we're going to get into some of the challenges, but man, I was preparing and getting this stuff together, and you do this just like it was flawless.
Well, you know, the truth of the matter is many people, and unfortunately, some Christians don't think a pastor, that's a vocation. They don't think that's a job.
Yeah.
But I had to prepare to come to church. I had to prepare sermons. I had to prepare myself to be able to counsel and develop people and then lead people. And then as the church grows, then it's really a business,
Yeah.
you know. So it was fun.
Yeah.
But it was challenging.
Yeah.
And challenging. But I would like to acknowledge that the challenges were nowhere near as powerful and profound as the victories and the positive side of pastor. I think it's a wonderful thing to be called to be a pastor.
Yeah.
Just absolutely great.
And I think you have to have the grace for it too. I know one of my friends, she said that God hasn't called us to be over the church. And so sometimes we can be so critical of what we think the pastor should be doing. So all the pastors out there, thank you, kudos to you. But we can be very critical of things that we feel should change. This should go this way. But to be graced to be the pastor, that's just one of the things that I feel is very special about you. So I'm honored to be able to see you in that
Thank
space.
You know what? It's interesting you talked about grace, and I know every pastor will be able to appreciate this. It's one thing to stand on a stage and talk.
Yeah.
It's another thing to have the grace to lead a group of people. And my wife asked me some time ago, she said, "Do you miss pastoring?" And I said, "No, I don't. No, I don't miss pastoring." Now, I didn't mean that I didn't enjoy pastoring, but when I look at my son now, and now I'm a member, you know what I mean? I'm like everybody else.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to do that because I wouldn't have the grace to do it.
Yeah.
See, I had the grace to do it, but now I don't have the grace to do it. I have the grace to help pastors and support pastors, encourage pastors, coach pastors, but I don't have the grace to stand in that office right at this point. So no, I won't want to do anything that I don't have the grace to do it.
Yeah, we talked about previously in some of the other sessions about purpose, and we talked about how there are seasons for different things in your life. I do love, because you and MK, if y'all haven't seen that interview, I do love how y'all both recognize that the season for what you were called to do in that moment, it shifted. And so it's not you're not going to be doing what God has called you to do. You're just shifting it. So I like that you were able to hear God's voice in the shift, which I think for a lot of pastors, that can be a challenge to hear God say shift.
Listen, we're going to get into some of the blessings. We talked a little bit about that. We're going to get into some of the challenges.
Yeah.
But I'm really interested to hear you and some of the things that you experienced, especially growing up.
Yeah.
So what do you want to ask me? Anything you want to ask me? Or maybe I should ask you?
Yeah, you asked me a question.
Okay. Talk to me about, maybe you can start in a general way and then we'll work our way down.
Okay.
Talk to me about what it was like growing up to be a pastor's or preacher's kid.
It's interesting because it's almost kind of like you have that badge when people say, "Oh, you pastor," you have that badge. "Oh, you Pastor Mike's daughter." So you always have that. You are the name of somebody else. I remember one time listening to Martin Luther King's daughter and Malcolm X's daughter talking about how they will always be associated with their father. Like no matter what they do, it would always be associated with their father. And so I think in the beginning, I don't think I really wanted to always be associated with, oh, well, you that pastor down there with that big church and congregation and y'all taking folks' money. So sometimes I felt like the association with being Pastor Mike was kind of heavy, but I don't feel like it was something that I felt from you all that y'all gave to me. So when I think about growing up as a preacher's kid, I think of levels, right? So when we were younger, y'all started us off in a Christian school. We went to Garywood Christian School, which I thought was,
It was a
as you
great
get
school.
older, you see how important it is to have a development at a young age, because I don't feel like when people ask me what it was like, I don't feel like y'all forced God on us. It never felt like it was something forced. We actually enjoy going to vacation Bible schools or going to conferences, especially in children's ministry. So when I see parents nowadays asking their kids if they want to go to church, that is so foreign to me, because it's like you have to do things that you may not want to do, but you want them to develop a relationship with them, so with God. And so I did appreciate how we developed a relationship with God. And one of the things that I appreciate with Mom is that she made it fun. She would do stories. You made it fun. I remember, and I don't even know how old I was, but I remember being in a little crib, and you made us feel like it was Noah's Ark and doing things like that. And do you remember when we did the leadership development book? I hated doing that leadership development book, but you had us going through all the leadership development stuff, and we had to write stuff down. I hated it, but it was something that I feel like now, I feel like that is one of the things my friends say that they appreciate about me, is that I'm able to share God in a natural way, share things in a natural way. So from the beginning phase, I thought that it was, it was good. We also went to conferences when I was in high school, and I remember my junior year, I don't know what I was thinking. I was
Well,
like,
you were in student ministry at that
I was in
time.
student ministry, and I remember we went to a conference, and I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna date God for a whole year." Like, it was just so, like, little stuff like that, and I thought that was so cool that I dated God, and everybody and their mama was trying to talk to me my junior year in high school. So it was something that I enjoyed, I loved. I never felt like it was a pressure thing. Now, I will say it did shift though in college. College is where I felt like the shift was. Let me tell you why. I remember one time I had went out. This is when I was, trying to be in the world, and I had went out.
Trying to be in the world.
Yeah, I went out, partied, and did all of this stuff. And the guy was like, "Let's take a photo of you." And I took the photo. Lord Jesus, why did I do that? And I remember my godmother texting me a photo of me in the club, and it was in the newspaper. Like, what are the odds that it was in the newspaper? And I just felt like it was a lot of pressure at that point. And you remember I stopped sitting on the front row. I was like, Lord, people judging me and this and that. So, college was a little bit different, because I felt like now it's starting to be more pressure, and I'm starting to see it and realize it. But you get out of that phase.
Well, let me back up a little bit, because my wife and Pete is my wife's nickname, and we really was intentional about not raising you all as preachers' kids.
Yeah.
We really didn't. We really didn't want. We didn't say y'all preachers' kids and y'all need to act this kind of way. Mm-hmm. We just didn't want that. Yeah. We felt like that would have been so much pressure to do that. We wanted y'all to be ordinary kids. Yeah. So it was great seeing you all grow up, and you played basketball and you played softball. Mike played baseball. Yeah. And y'all were in the band. You got Homecoming Queen.
Yes. You remember you walked
I
in
remember
there?
Homecoming Queen.
Ooh, my outfit. I wore mama pink suit looking like a little old lady. I don't know why I decided to wear that outfit.
Do you remember when they were calling out? She was on the court. And they called out was it the first runner-up?
Yeah,
No, was it the second runner-up?
Yeah, second and then first.
Second runner-up.
Yeah.
And then I think you would have been just as happy to get the second runner-up, because you wanted something. And then they called the first runner-up, and Tiffany turned to me and said, "Dog, I'm not going to get anything."
Yeah.
I'm not going to get anything. And I'm praying, Lord. Most parents want their kids to win.
Yeah.
I'm praying, oh, God, you're thinking, because you said, I'm not going to get anything. So now my head going, Lord, you don't want to get something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when they call you out as Homecoming Queen, in high school. I thought that was just
Yeah,
amazing.
that was a good moment.
Well, I think it was great. It was great that y'all lived a just a normal
Mm-hmm.
life. You got into it a little bit, but talk about those expectations. Uh, those
Mm-hmm.
expectations like
Yeah.
people. Can you talk people, high
Mm-hmm.
school,
Mm-hmm.
dating
Yeah.
expectations,
Ooh.
guys
Yeah.
expectations? Can you talk about that?
So from the expectations of people, they always have this saying, "Appreciate kids are the worst ones." And so it's always an expectation. Oh, you must be, you quiet, so you must be the little bad one. You the one that's a little rebel. And I feel like Mikey was the one that was the smart one and different things like that. And I was the one who stayed on punishment all the time. Like I
Well,
just
you were
like to
smart
talk.
too. You made great grades.
No. I'm not knocking that I wasn't smart, but I like to talk. I just, felt like I'm supposed to be talking in class, and the teacher said otherwise. So the expectation was that, oh, y'all are the worst ones. So you get that aspect of it. You even now this may be a little too much, but we're gonna go
No,
there.
no,
You
listen.
even have
Their ears. Yeah, tell
you
us,
even
Tiffany.
have
Tell
the
us.
expectation for some preacher kids that they are the freaky ones or the overly sexual ones. I've heard people, say that too. And so people, come to you sometimes in a way and you be like, no, we ain't finna do all of that. We ain't finna go there. So you have that expectation. When it comes to the dating expectation, now
Okay, were any guys a little intimidated?
so let's talk about it. I feel like, because we still in the dating phase now, I had a friend come to me and tell me, it was a guy, he told me that some of the guys who you talk to, if they don't have their mind right, it will be a mental challenge for them because of who you are and what you bring to the table. And at first I didn't quite get that, but now I kind of get
Who
that.
I am?
Yeah, who
Okay.
you are and what you bring and different things like that, as far as being supportive, financially established, there for your family and different things like that, healthy marriage and things like that. So I do think that it was a expectation of they not necessarily have to live up to a standard to you, but it was an expectation of you got to come correct. Like you can't come no any type of way. And so I do appreciate that. But I do think that there were kind of, I recently tried to invite one of my friends to church. And they were like, I ain't sitting on that front row. I ain't finna do the front row with you. So, you have those things and you just got to be open to allowing people to, that it's different. Because not everybody is, open to dating in this stage. And it comes with being in a, not necessarily limelight, but it comes with oh, you are that pastor's daughter or you are that pastor's sister. So you do have those things that come along with it, with the expectations of people.
Now, let's talk about um, you talked about the pressure, kind of the pressure,
Yeah.
because I think even though people don't mean it,
Yeah.
I think even people in churches tend to have an expectation,
Right.
but in the same way, and I've said this for years, that preachers don't get discount tickets.
Yeah.
Okay. And by that I mean that we have to study the word, meditate the word, obey the word, live right. We don't
Yeah.
get any discount. We have temptations just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And so pastors' kids don't get discount tickets.
That's true. Yeah.
Which
Because people are going to voice their opinion whether you ask them or not. I remember one time a lady came up to me and was like, ooh, girl, your butt's so big. And I'm thinking in my head, why in the world are you saying this to me? So people just feel like they can just say any and everything to you. So you are right when you say that you don't get a discount ticket. I did want to ask you a question because I think that you balance the relationship between what me and Mike MK had going on in our lives, what Mom had going on in her lives, but also your own personal life, like whether it was friendships, whether it was ministry, whether it was mental health. How did you balance your personal life and ministry?
Well, to be honest, and I in these discussions, I like to be transparent.
Okay.
early in ministry when you all were really little.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you all remember any of that. I think my priorities were off. I mean, I think I thought ministry was everything
Yeah.
because I connected being in ministry and doing what God told me to do with the priority. You know, it's the priority.
Yeah.
And so Pete wasn't happy at that time. I had my priority. I had the ministry ahead of her, ahead of everything. And then her priorities were a little off too. She had you and Mike with everything. And I felt like I was the third child or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
What helped me to get straight, and that's why mentorship is so important.
Yeah.
God connected me to my father in the faith, Dr. Fred Price. And for the first time, listening to him, it wasn't like he sat me down and said this. No, just watching, listening to his teaching. He always told his examples about his family, stuff like that. And then it began to kind of register in my mind that there's a connection between serving God and ministering your family. And that your family should be right next to God. And then the church. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And so I thought, okay, like Pete and I was challenged and I'm married. I just thought you get on board, you don't get on board, I'm gone. You know, that kind of thing. And then when I heard him talk about his relationship with his wife and his relationship with his kids and how that my mentor wanted to be an example. And I never knew that. I never made the connection between my family and success in ministry. And when I saw it, then I began to make adjustments with Pete. I understood the importance of you all. So Pete would do homework with you all and projects with you all. I would do Bible study. So once a week, we were doing Bible study. And then I would work with y'all in whatever y'all were doing in your activities. For you played basketball, so I had you. I was trying to teach you because I'm trying to get you. I'm trying to get you to the league, baby.
I know it.
We're trying to get to the league, and I'll tell you the story about Tiffany. Tiffany played high school basketball and played some college basketball. And Tiffany was good. She was a really good shooter. You know what I mean? She was really good. So I knew the girl could hoop. She just didn't want to practice. She was like Allen Iverson.
Practice? What is practice?
She was like Allen Iverson.
What is practice?
I mean, she wanted to just walk out on the court and excel. And I would get on her. But you know what? To be honest with you, I realized something in hindsight, and I hope this bless fathers, pastors, and their kids. It's so important to spend time with your kids, and not just Bible study, and not just taking them to church, but being engaged and connected with them in their everyday life. I didn't know the dividends that we're going to pay.
Because if you're not careful, it can make you despise church or hate even God, and you don't want it to be to where you made church or God an idol. And I think sometimes pastors can make God and church an idol, and so they are not valuing what he told them to be the head of the household and building relationships, because the first commandment is to love people, and so you have to love your children as well. I wanted to go in a different direction because I know that we're speaking about the positive aspects of it, but there are some negative aspects of it too. And whether it be a pastor and the pastor's preacher's kid, how would you say or what would you give advice to a father or a pastor who the relationship with their kids is not as healthy, the communication may not be as good? How would you encourage the father? And then I can kind of give a little bit of what I would say to the children when it comes to the father as well.
I've seen situations where a father who happens to be a pastor or minister, and he doesn't have a good relationship with his kids.
Yeah.
Uh, and development is seasonal. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about little kids. We'll talk about little kids, talk about teenagers, and then talk about your adult children. I think it's important for a father in ministry to understand that his legacy is in his kids. That his real true legacy is in his kids. And I would say just spending time. I talked about doing Bible study once a week, but that's not that's important, but the real issue is connecting with your child and doing things with your kids, whether it's band, being there, being present, whether it's sports, being present, whether it's whatever it is, dance, whatever it is, just being present means a whole lot to kids. Now, if you have a child, it may be a teenager now, it may be an adult now, you don't have a good relationship, then I would say take the initiative. And if you made some mistakes in the past, maybe you wasn't present, or you were present in the home but absent, or maybe not a good example, then I think at some point you apologize to your kids. You said, listen, I missed it. I didn't do this, I didn't do that, and I want you to forgive me.
Yeah.
Will you forgive me? And then make it about the relationship. Don't make it about church. Don't make it don't because a lot of times when you have a bad relationship with your kids, most of the time they don't want to go to church.
Yeah.
They don't want to go to church because they feel like they didn't either get a good example at home, or it was all about church and not about them. So I would say, don't try to get them to go to church. Don't do that. I mean, I'm talking about older kids. Don't go over their house or where it's at. You need to go to church. Oh no, make it about church.
You're talking about adults, not kids who are living in the household.
No, the kids living in the house need to go to church.
Oh, I was about to say now. You saying people who living in the house? Okay, I get what you're saying. You saying adults?
Yeah. It's funny. We had a rule.
Yeah.
With you all that you were going to church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We couldn't make you get saved. We couldn't make you have a relationship, but we could position you for it.
Yeah.
And home Bible study, children's church, student ministries, it positioned you for it. And then the rest was to just try to be the best example that we could be and stay connected to what you all were doing.
Yeah.
But I think many times we lose our kids, and I don't mean to bring grief to anybody who's listening to me and you're challenged with your kid. I don't mean to bring grief to you. I want to talk about the problem and then connect it to the solution. And the problem was it wasn't a relational connection. It wasn't a relationship.
Yeah.
Okay. And that lack of a relationship many times lead to the distance, the separation, the struggle. Well, I think the solution is the same.
Yeah.
I think it's about relationship. It's not about you got to go to church. You need to go to church. You need to be living right.
Yeah.
You're not doing. You stop doing this. Stop doing. I don't think that's the way to approach it. I think the way to approach it is that I just want to be with you. I want to spend time with you. I want us to spend some time together. And we're not going to even talk about church. We're going to talk about you and what's going on with you and how we can do some things together and develop a relationship.
And I think what I would say to whether it be high school students, college students, or even adults, I think we can make stuff so self-focused. It's all about me. You didn't do me, or you didn't give this to me. So the first advice I would say, which is a challenge, is look outside of yourself. Don't be selfish, and that can be
Now, are
very.
you speaking to the kids, or you speaking to the
I'm speaking to high school student kids,
Gotcha.
college kids, adult kids. I think, because I taught high school, so high school kids understand what selfishness is. I think a lot of times we forget that our parents, they have their own lives. They have things that are going on that has nothing to do with us. So they're struggling with certain mental health issues. They're struggling with things that they may have not resolved from their past when they were younger. And so it could be a harsh reality that you are just so focused on yourself. And I think God calls us sometimes to love people outside of ourselves. So I would first start saying, look past of yourself of what you're not getting. But then also too, realizing that your relationship with your parents are valuable, and you may not know it right now, but later on down the road, when your parents go to be with the Lord, the relationship with you have with your parents are going to be so very important. And so you don't want to live a life of regret. And I see so many of my friends or people who I know live life with regret when all they had to do was say, hey, let's make this relationship work, or let's try to get, on the same path with certain things. Now, I know it could be different if their parents are just stuck in their ways and they're not willing to change. But if you have a parent who is willing to change, and you're an adult or college student, I think having that conversation of saying, this is how I feel, this is what's going on, and how can we make this better? Having that conversation is big, because I look at y'all as my best friends. We talk about stuff. We don't always get along. We don't always agree with stuff. You have your opinions, your thoughts. I have my opinions and thoughts. And
my revelations.
And your revelations. And as you get older, you start seeing and speaking into revelation. One time he had gave me a word, and I was just like, you done missed it. This ain't God. God did not tell you that. And he was like, you know what? All right, that's fine. Because he came over to the house and was like, I just feel like, this is this. And I said, well, listen, you done miss God. And this ain't God. So you need to tell him he got it wrong.
Hey, and you know what you did, right?
What I do?
You got upset at me,
Yeah,
because I shared something to you that the Spirit of God had said to me.
See, I ain't know it was the Spirit of God. You ain't started with that. I thought it was just your feelings, okay? So I was like, I don't know what the Spirit is telling you.
This is exactly
what did I say?
Said. Well, why is he always talking to you? And he's never talking to me.
Yeah.
I said, maybe you're not listening.
Oh, yes. And then come back and you were so right. I said, got to be more careful. You need to listen to your folks, because they know, even when you think they don't. We could go on, because I feel like it's so many things. But I did want to ask you one of the questions of how can parents involve their families in ministry but not making them feel overwhelmed? Because one of the things that I feel like, even now, I'm doing the podcast with you, but it just was a God thing. It wasn't a force thing.
Right.
You didn't force me into doing this. And even with MK, he was called into it. So how can families, or how can parents get their children involved with it not feeling like it's being forced? Or is it something that they have to be involved with? Because some people may not be involved with it.
Yeah, let's look at both sides of that. I think in terms of involvement in ministry, because most pastors want their kids involved in ministries, I would suggest that you involve your kids in ministry by asking them. And then, and we're talking about as kids get older, naturally when they're small, you're going to give more hands-on directions.
Yeah.
But because see, what you want is as they grow older, they want God, they want church, they want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So when they're little kids, you can put your hands on them, say you're going to church, and you're going to do this, and you're going to read your Bible, you're going to do this. But as they grow older, you want them to develop an appetite for it and a desire for it.
Yeah.
So as they get older, I would suggest that you invite them to do things and find out what they enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Rather than saying, you're going to do this and you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Now, when kids get older, I think they should decide whether or not they want to do that.
Yeah.
Because, see, think about it. Our purpose was established in eternity past, right? So God has a purpose for us. We may be the parents, we may be the first lady, we may be the pastor, senior pastor, bishop, or whatever. But God has a purpose for our kids.
Yeah.
And so God's purpose for our kids may not be a part of the ministry. Now I know some pastors gonna get upset about that, about that. But here's the deal: that both of you decided to connect. Both of you.
Yeah.
And with the podcast, you told me you were. I came to you.
Yeah.
Because I was struggling.
Yeah.
And I said, I asked you to help me.
Yeah.
But really, this podcast, you said to me, I'll help you.
Yeah.
You volunteered. You said, I'll help you.
Yeah.
It's been the best thing for our podcast. It's been just to have you a part of it. But I remember when you went to Miami. You know, I remember when you went to Atlanta. I wasn't sure that.
And I know a lot of people was thinking like, why is she going to Atlanta? She working for another church.
And you were working for another church.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a problem with that because I thought you should find your own way.
Yeah.
Mike went to North Carolina. He was working for a company in North Carolina. He called and said, I feel like I'm calling to ministry. And he wanted to come home. I think our kids need to find their own way, especially as they become adults. Don't get frustrated. Maybe God may call them to be a salesman. Maybe God may call them to be a teacher in academia or a university. May call them to be an accountant or whatever.
Yeah.
And be supportive of what God calls them to be. And then pray and allow God to draw them rather than trying to force them to do it.
Yeah.
We almost running out of time.
I know. I hope this conversation that people will be able to get something, even though we're talking about the preacher's kid and the preacher. I feel like it's a conversation that parents will be able to, you know, sit down, talk to their kids about purpose, calling, and what it is, just building a relationship with it. I think the thing that is important for us is that we have a relationship now, and it's not forced. It's something that we enjoy talking to each other. So hopefully people can get from that the relationship with their kids are important.
Well, you know, I want to close out by speaking to that.
Okay.
I was visiting a protege's church recently, and I saw a lot of kids getting baptized. It was just a beautiful thing, man. I'm sitting up there holding back tears. It was just a beautiful thing. And then the pastor invited me to the stage, and I said something to the parents about their investment in their kids is not a waste of time.
That's good.
And when you got little kids and they so busy, and then they in this baseball and they into gymnastics and they into debate and band and all that, when you're in the grind as a parent, you don't always feel the importance of it.
Yeah.
But all that investment that you're making, even if your kids are really small, is so powerful, because now we look back and my son is now my pastor, and my daughter is now the director over my podcast. It's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. And we never forced them. We never say, you got to do this, you got to do that. But I think it was the investment that we made, my wife and I made, from band to school projects to baseball and basketball and all the things that you all were involved in.
Yeah.
And it seems sometimes tiring on parents.
Yeah.
But it's a good investment. It's one of the best investments that you can ever make. Listen, we're out of time.
This is a good conversation. I enjoy talking with you.
I
on
enjoy
this.
talking to you too. I thought I was going to get deep into your business, but I got
You have to come back for another
I
time.
gotta come back for another thing. Listen, I hope that you got some out of this. Please let them know. They can go on YouTube.
Yeah,
and
you can rewatch it on YouTube, Facebook, and then you can also download the Mike Moore Ministries app.
Right. And
Yeah.
you can get it and share it. Share it with other people. We trust that you've been blessed today. Listen, we got a lot we're going to be talking about.
Yes.
I decided in our new format that I was going to bring Tiffany from behind the camera and that we were going to discuss topics. So we're going to be discussing some other things.
Yeah.
So pray for us, share it with others, talk about it, and we're going to continue to bless you. And we look forward to seeing you next time.